Basically, it started as a communication protocol between wallets in a way
Mm-hmm.
that was not decentralized, but we basically opened a communication channel between wallet A and wallet B.
Mm-hmm.
So wallet B can send a new generated address to wallet A.
Mm-hmm.
So wallet A sends X amount of money to this new address that has been sent through the messaging protocol. At the time, it was basically a communication protocol, and now it's user ID that's attached to a user account,
Mm-hmm.
and we generate new addresses for making the payments and all that stuff. But the wallets right now are cloud wallets. They are
Mm-hmm.
not running on the user's device. The user's device is only showing a UI
Yeah.
to see the cloud wallet.
I live unbanked off of cryptocurrency, and I use Bitrefill extensively because it lets me pay with crypto at places that don't yet accept it directly. This one service, more than any other, helps me live on crypto, pay your prepaid phone bill, or buy gift cards to thousands of major retailers around the world, all with cryptocurrency, including for exact amounts so you don't have to buy more gift credit than you need for a specific purchase. You can use Bitrefill without an account, but if you get an account, you can earn rewards points, which translate to savings, and you can also hold a balance denominated in dollars or euros to protect yourself against market crashes. Go to bitrefill.com, click Create Account, and enter the referral code DCN, or follow the link in the description. Hey everybody, I have the wonderful pleasure of once again speaking with the one and only Alex Agut, the founder and CEO of HandCash. How's it going, man?
Great, great. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing quite well. I first, of course, heard about you back in the day when HandCash was on Bitcoin Cash, and so I used it for a while, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And then, life got in the way, other stuff happened, and at some point this year, there's been one of the big reasons I got interested outside of BTC, of Bitcoin, which I was using back in 2015, 16, all that, to get into the other sectors is I heard about Dash was working on usernames. I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be great. And then, 5 years later almost, it's like finally ready to happen. But in the meantime, I've seen a boom in the crypto space this year specifically.
Mm-hmm.
In everyone is trying for that. Everyone's trying to actually tackle usability. And I mean, like I remember there was like the smart contract boom, and then there's a little bit of a DeFi boom, but like the boom no one's talking about is people are trying to make people are ready for mass adoption now. Like the crypto space, I think is mentally ready. Maybe not infrastructurally ready yet, but they're mentally they have in their brain like we're ready to start taking this to everyone. And
Yeah.
so I also saw some people, some friends of mine, especially Codex, who's a developer who's developed a bunch of stuff for Dash, for Bitcoin Cash, and he's a big fan of a few different Bitcoin SV projects. And he kept on telling me about how much he loves PayMail, and PayMail is so great. And I've seen some people talking about that stuff. And so I want to dig into how these things work back end and kind of like ask the tough questions to get around get my head around the concept of what are the trade-offs, how does things work, et cetera, et cetera. So why don't we start with HandCash, because that's I probably a little bit more directly in your expertise, right? And at the same time, yeah, it just be a good way to start. So how do HandCash usernames work?
Well, it's basically a centralized database, and basically it started as a communication protocol between wallets in a way
Mm-hmm.
that was not decentralized, but we basically opened a communication channel between wallet A and wallet B.
Mm-hmm.
So wallet B can send a new generated address to wallet A.
Mm-hmm.
So wallet A sends that X amount of money to this new address that has been sent through the messaging protocol. And basically, what HandCash did at the time was basically communicating to um, I, the things that we are using. We used to call them SPV wallets or whatever because they were
Yeah.
standalone wallet kind of. semi nodes or something at the time with wallets. It's something that we have evolved in a few years, but at the time it was basically a communication protocol, and now it's basically we have user ID that's attached to a user account, and we generate new addresses for making the payments and all that stuff. But the wallets right now are cloud wallets. They are not running on the user's device. The user's device is only showing a UI to see the cloud wallet.
So as far as the there's a database of a username is associated with a wallet. It's probably extended public key, right?
Kind of, yeah. We in most wallets, I guess that's the direct answer. In HandCash, the infrastructure is a little bit more complicated, but let's say it's
let's just say wallet then. So a username is associated with the wallet, and then HandCash stores all the usernames, and including all the connections between the usernames, right? As in who's friended to who knows who. Yeah. And then that's all stored. And so that's all stored by you guys. Is it is there any way to like download or back up all that data? I know like the private key stuff is obviously with crypto, you can just get a seed, but can you back up all your username and your transaction history and everything between usernames?
It's not that it's backed up. I mean, we have backups for ourselves, for our system, and if you want to download whatever information we have about you, you just send us an email to support, and it's something that we have done a few times. Not many people ask for it, but if some people want their full transaction history for tax purposes or whatever, we just provide a CVS with every detail for every single transaction, and that's something that we can do. But so far nobody is downloading their there's no we haven't seen any need for downloading your metadata of your friends or whatever.
Yeah, and so this is pretty much like a HandCash experience. Like someone can't take this and just be like, I'm going to make my own wallet. I'm going to use all that stuff and re-import my contacts and stuff. It's kind of more of
no, it's only for HandCash. Yeah.
And so, is there any kind of an interoperability between other wallets as far as the username stuff is concerned? So, say for example, I have another Bitcoin SV wallet, like say MoneyButton, RelayX, something like that, and I want to send to a HandCash username. Is there any way to do that, or would it have to send to an address that's associated with a HandCash wallet and just kind of do it the old school way?
You have to send it to an address that's associated with HandCash wallet, but that's something that you do through PayMail. So basically, if you are John in HandCash, externally, outside of HandCash, you interact with any other wallet through John at handcash.io. So your handle becomes your PayMail too, just by adding at handcash.io.
Yeah, so PayMail is a separate system entirely from the HandCash.
Yeah. It's similar to email. It's very similar to DNS, in fact.
Yeah.
Which every wallet provider typically, you can have your own. You can be running your own email server. Some people do, but for the most part, most people just have. They use Yahoo.com or Gmail.com, whatever. So this is the same thing. You have your username at some kind of domain. In this case, for example, you can have John at handcash.io, and at the same time you can have John at moneybutton.com, and maybe they belong to the same user, or maybe they don't.
Yeah.
And that's depending on every user's ability to fetch the username that they want in the platform they want. The cool thing is that you can, from any wallet that supports PayMail, you can send to any other wallet that supports PayMail without having to ask for new addresses or whatever, because the system does it for you.
Yeah, interesting. So let's just say that there was a competitor to HandCash that was very similar, but a different service. Let's just call it instead of HandCash, call it Foot Gold. I don't know, stupid name, but whatever. So let's say this wallet, they have their own database of users and their own username set up, and obviously it's a completely separate one from HandCash. So I could send to my friends in that, and it would just be their handle at, let's just say, at Bobby. And I sent to Bobby and whatever. And then if I want to send like to Jimmy, and Jimmy's on HandCash, I would have to put Jimmy at handcash.io, and then it would work. And then let's just say I have like people in my little contact list. The contact list is only in my wallet provider, but and then there's like Bobby, Jimmy, whatever, and then Bobby, Jimmy at HandCash because that's a different provider. And then blah, blah, blah. Kind of like the way Gmail would keep your Gmail contacts, and then external contacts would still be in there. And ultimately, these lists and contacts and all that would be stored by the individual wallet provider. Is that kind of the way it works?
Well, it's the kind of where the way it works right now, because it's what makes the most sense. I don't know if in the future that will change, but we don't expect that to change that much, because it already works. Safe, it's secure, and it's very easy to manage in case people want to delete their accounts or something. Once you start with interoperability, the problems arise that you have to agree with all other developers that they have to follow certain protocol for deleting users from the blockchain, whatever. How do you do it? What's the format, whatever? And you have to kind of reinvent everything and start from scratch for something that would provide the same service and the same user experience that you are already providing. So I don't see any benefit of trying to go that route, to be honest. At least not now. I mean, we have many other things that are much more important to fix and to improve in Bitcoin than taking care of making substituting DNS for some blockchain stuff.
Yeah. So. Obviously, I'm purposely sounding a little bit stupid and saying these questions, phrasing this way, because a lot of people are non-technical. I'm trying to make sure get that.
I'm trying to be very, very low level.
Yes. So
very, very high level, to be honest.
Yes, very. I guess low level for a low level of intellectual depth, maybe, but very high level in terms of the terminology.
Abstraction, abstraction terms, yeah.
It's a little confusing because the term high level actually kind of probably means more low level. High level is for beginners.
That's...
But anyway, when you so the actual protocol that allows people to do at this, like something at that, and then use that. That's just like a way of doing things. It's not like a server or database stored anywhere. That thing is just like a way of doing things, right? As far as like,
if you were talking about the UX, you don't have actually to. I mean, whatever's in the background, you shouldn't care that much as a user. But right now it's an interplay with secure communications between servers. Yeah, and it's much. PayMail has evolved into something much more, much better than the typical. Friendly username to address translator. Right now it's a full-on communication channel, encrypted, and it's very cool because that allows us to actually do what the best thing about PayMail is that it allows us to go back to making Bitcoin peer-to-peer. So that means that you open a communication channel from your wallet service to the other wallet service that you want to send money to, and basically it's like sending a push notification that, hey, I sent you this transaction. So you you broadcast the transaction to the network, and at the same time you notify the receiver. So that's great because the receiving service, they don't have to keep fetching the blockchain for new payments, because that's something that's very, very expensive to do. That's slow, it's very inefficient, and that doesn't scale very much. So the cool thing is that PayMail allows us to scale much more for micropayments and fast, for fast transactions. And also, if you actually implement PayMail peer-to-peer with things like miner ID, merchant API, and all this kind of cool technology that we have on BSV. Double spends are gone.
Yeah.
Almost 100%, or at least they're very, very hard to pull off right now. And we haven't had any case of double spend in 3 years.
Interesting.
There was one guy that found an issue, but it was an issue related to kind of the things that he was preaching for, because he was one of these people preaching that everybody has to run their own server, their own node. The problem is that if when you broadcast a transaction to the network and you are connected to random nodes, you might be sending that transaction to non-mining nodes, and you might think that the transaction is going to be relayed, or maybe it turns out that it doesn't. The cool thing, we have merchant API, is that you send the transaction directly to the miners. Yeah, for example, we send it to 3 miners at the same time. That's every transaction, and the first one to respond, we give it the thumbs up, and we can say that it's valid. And it takes like all the process between signing the transaction with threshold signatures and all this stuff, send it to the network, and kind of give the thumbs up from the miner. It takes like 700 milliseconds or so. So it's
nice.
You don't have even to worry about confirmations or.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
So we're talking about the way PayMail's structured. So basically, it's just like email in that each service provider say I use Gmail, you use Hotmail, someone else uses Proton Mail. Each provider runs their own server, runs their own everything. And then of course, we always have to be a little bit ridiculous when we're talking about like centralization or censorship resistance type stuff, because you have to go to the ridiculous example is always the one you want to prepare for, right? So when we're talking about that, so say I'm a bad person, or I'm a person that like nobody likes because I smell bad or whatever, and I love my little username. Like say I go the desert links at bitcoinsv.com or something like that. Say I have a thing like that, and then I say a bunch of mean things about SV, calling it a scam, saying Craig Wright's an evil person, all this kind of stuff, and then they say, you know what, we don't like you, we're going to take away your PayMail thing. And they can do that if I have it registered at bitcoinsv.com, for example, right?
Well, bitcoinsv.com is they don't have they're not running a PayMail server as far as I know. But for example, I mean, if you are, I only want to talk about HandCash because it's what I fully know. But if it's like any other service. I mean, if you comply with the terms of service and you're not doing anything illegal or something like that, we don't have to. I mean, we don't want to lose users. We don't want to reject transactions. We don't want to do that. Of course, if an account is breaching the terms of service, then we have to act, and we have maybe a judicial order or something. Maybe we have to act. I don't know. We haven't had any case in 3 years that anything wrong happened.
Yeah. So if there is something where a provider doesn't like what I'm doing, maybe they could take away that. But of course, I still own my own funds, and then I could just say, "Hey guys, HandCash kicked me off. They're bad people, whatever." Now instead of
you can do that. I mean, with emails, you have the same thing. If you want to run your own, feel free to run your own PayMail node and just connect to the network and server. You can run your own server, so you actually are in full control. But if you want to use another company's control and they have some terms of service and you have to go by those terms of service, then it is what it is. I mean, if it's the same case with your Gmail account or Yahoo account or whatever, if the government finds that you are cheering for Al Qaeda and planning to kill the president or something like that, maybe they shut down your Google account. So
So in terms of the way, the way Bitcoin works, if you have the private keys to your funds, only you control your actual funds. And so if I have, let's say I have a wallet, I own my own private keys, I control the funds, but the PayMail, I would maybe use someone else's PayMail server. If, or
Mhm.
at first. And then if I get kicked off, like say, oh, HandCash doesn't like me, instead of at HandCash, now I'm at this other service. And if they don't like me, eventually I just have to run my own and be like this at me, and then I'm kind of my own,
But
right?
that's one of these cases that, in real life, who's
Mm-hmm.
going to have issues with that? I don't know. It
Of
maybe,
course.
yeah, we all have eyes, and we all are seeing
Mm-hmm.
the rant of the wave of censorship that's hitting the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very worrying, but I also have the faith that all new companies that are rising, they don't want to be more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool, but that's, again, most people will.
Mm-hmm.
We are not doing this for the minority of
Of
people that
course.
might have, issues with the law or something. For the most part, and keep in mind that this is not a Bitcoin feature.
Mm-hmm.
This is a protocol
Yes.
that is optional. It doesn't change the base
Mm-hmm.
protocol of Bitcoin. Bitcoin runs exactly the same. This is just a UX layer that makes making payments much easier and more efficient for companies, for users, more secure. So this only improves the user experience and makes
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin, more usable for for everybody, not just regular people, but even for developers. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's very convenient that just with a PayMail address, you are generating new addresses every time. So that's better for privacy. Also, with PayMail, you can exchange metadata, like I'm sending money to Joel at moneybutton.com, and I see your profile picture, your name, whatever. So my wallet can look much better, much nicer, much more human.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I only see upsides to PayMail, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's.
it's totally optional. You can still, uh, build your own Bitcoin wallet, wherever. It's going to still work
Mm-hmm.
the same.
So do you know where the extra data is stored? Like, so obviously, or how. So first, every single time you send and receive any kind of a cryptocurrency transaction, there's a trail on the blockchain, right? It says from here to
Yeah.
here. Now, as far as every single time you make a request, like you send to another PayMail username, then there's obviously some kind of data interchange there. Where does that
Mhm.
take place, and who can see it?
Oh, that's a secure communication channel between
Mm-hmm.
both services. Normally, it's between services. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not something that the public can find a way to look at, right? It's completely, is encrypted.
What kind of information you want to see? I mean, it's just basically how a transaction is
Mm-hmm.
constructed. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
it's a JSON file with some inputs, outputs, some metadata,
Yeah.
some
So
profile data, whatever. It's not anyway. Your UI should be representing this.
yes.
And what's important is that the payment is settled on the blockchain, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's some op return data uh, that's graved on the blockchain for every
Mm-hmm.
payment or something. We don't add any op return data because I mean, we don't see why people should have to spend more money for adding that
Mm-hmm.
when we already have that information in our servers and displayed in the UI. So
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as things like, say, transaction history and things like that, that's probably would be stored by the individual PayMail servers, right?
sure, yeah.
Or the individual wallet providers.
Then more than the yeah.
Yeah. It's.
The PayMail server, as far as I know, it doesn't, as far as I know,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't store any kind of information like this.
Yeah. So, how easy is it for anyone to just run their own PayMail server? Like, I wouldn't just say like the average user who's very newbie, but I would say like either an advanced user or a business or something like that to figure out how to do that.
I wouldn't say it's that hard. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's we implemented it in a few days, and it's not hard. The thing is that the documentation is public, but most companies will not want to bother with that, and if they want to, then great. I mean, the problem with that is that implicitly says that you are also running your own wallet, and that's getting very expensive, and it's going to be more expensive in the future. And I don't know if that's something that companies really want to do. I think most companies, if they want to have their own custom wallet for whatever reason, they might just outsource the infrastructure to companies like HandCash. For example, we are actually outsourcing our wallet infrastructure to other companies, and it's the way to go. I mean, we are specialized on this. We know how to handle huge volumes of UTXOs and talk to the miners and all this kind of stuff that a business may not even want to bother with all those details. I mean, if they are, for example, serving movies on the blockchain or whatever the thing why should they care about running a wallet? I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
It's very expensive, and it's very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. Much more than people realize. It's not, at least on BSV, it's not just getting a library on GitHub and it's not plug and play anymore. It is if you just want basic payments and you don't expect to have many users, but it doesn't make any sense, to be honest, to start from scratch.
So as far as how, like, let's just say, take a hypothetical situation that there's some Litecoin fans who are watching this video and like, oh, dude, that's such cool stuff. We're like according to the media, we're like the #1 payment coin out there. Well, but it's so difficult to use. We're gonna go port PayMail to Litecoin, so all Litecoin wallets can do the exact same kind of a thing. And is that something that's possible, do you think?
Well, if they pay the patent and if the technology allows for it or whatever, I guess so.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's patented for the BSV blockchain by N-Chain, and I think it was Money Button, whatever.
Yeah. So technically, and like as far as like on a technical level, anyone in the world can just take it and bend it to their own wishes. But on a practical level, if they do something without, paying for the patent, then they're going to get into legal trouble. Is that kind of the way it works?
They could run into some trouble.
Yeah, and so it's basically anyone who wants to use it for the BSV blockchain can kind of do it without asking permission, pretty much. But for other cryptocurrencies, they'd have to. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, no company has been enforced by N-Chain yet to pay any, for this basic stuff like PayMail or whatever, because right now we are in a phase that we have to grow this ecosystem. And the good thing about having patents is that you can actually control, that no other people are distorting the concept. I mean, if this other company, CoinFence, you said?
Which one?
If they CoinFence,
no,
did you say?
I don't know that one.
Oh no, I don't. Anyway,
yeah.
If any other company outside of BSV, imagine that they get this technology and they distort it in a way that adds a coin mixer or whatever, and maybe makes a bad reputation for the payment system, whatever. It's something that, at least if you are in control of the patent, you can kind of stop those kind of uses.
Yeah, definitely understand that. I know that a lot of the technologies behind the Dash platform have defensive patents filed, because in order to keep someone from basically copying the technology and then patenting it and preventing the people who made it from using it. And so it's one of those crazy worlds we live in today, where you have to protect you have to be in the legal and physical world as much as you want to just stay in the cypherpunk shadows.
I have my mixed thoughts about patents and stuff, but I understand why, we are in the world that we are, and
Mm-hmm.
the kind of benefits that they give you, and I think
Yeah.
it's fair. Yeah.
So one thing which I mean, this is probably, in the context of PayMail, it's a little bit of a stupid question, but but based on how a lot of these other services work, it might be a good thing. But like basically, there's no extra cost to the user to use the username layer of Bitcoin, right? As in, like, let's just say that I can just send a receipt from a wallet, and all I have, it works fine. But if I use
Yeah.
something like HandCash or whatever, so every time I make a connection, I create a profile, I create a username, I do all that, and I send to these. There's no extra cost anywhere, really.
Not in HandCash,
Mm-hmm.
but there are, for example, I know that Money Button charges $1 for your custom PayMail, because otherwise it's just your number of
Mm-hmm.
Money Button user at moneybutton.com, and that's one way of monetizing their service. I don't know. We don't want to charge for that. We even said at first that when Money Button started charging for this, that and I think first I love Money Button, and I
Mm-hmm.
love the people behind Money
Of
Button,
course.
and I have all the respect in the world for them. But the way we saw this is that we think this is so great for our users that we would even pay our users for actually using this instead of legacy addresses. I mean, or having random users, random numbers. Because
Mm-hmm.
what's the point of having a PayMail if you have a long string of numbers at
Mm-hmm.
moneybutton.com
Yeah.
instead of Josh at handcash.io?
Yeah, of course.
Uh,
But so different providers can charge if they want to,
They can,
but
yeah, they can definitely charge. It's something that's not widespread. I think MoneyButton is the only, as far as I know, is the only company that charges for this. Then there are other companies that might add a small fee for transactions, but not because of using PayMail, but just is the way they monetize.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so using PayMail actually doesn't have to
No.
cost anything
No.
except for whoever's running the server or the bandwidth of the server, whatever, if they're running their own
Yeah.
PayMail server. But that's pretty much
Exactly.
it. So
Exactly.
so I would sort of categorize that as free to use,
Yeah.
on the base level. And of course, like let's just say that Roger Ver decides, hey, you know what? Bitcoin.com could really use these usernames. Like, it's such a simple, elegant solution. I don't mind paying the Enchain patent a little bit to use it for Bitcoin Cash. And he goes,
Mhm.
does it. And of course, having someone at Bitcoin.com is just a super good name. Like, just like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
Joey at Bitcoin.com. I mean, that's like the best as far as like,
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
using
great name.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's Joey at Bitcoin.com. So you decide to do it. And then he charges like, okay, it's going to be like $5 to register. And there's like a 1 cent or half a cent transaction fee per time that you use it doing this username, because we got to pay
Yeah.
Craig Wright somehow, right? It's like one of those kinds of things. And
You
then,
actually pay the miners, but anyway. Well,
yes,
no, if you're paying a fee
well,
for
that's I'm
using
saying.
Bitcoin.com, it's not going to Craig.
Well, that's what I'm
At
saying.
least not now. Maybe in the future.
Is it the patent, right? The Enchain patent that Roger has to pay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Maybe a
Therefore,
royalty or
yeah,
something. I don't
therefore
know.
he has to charge a little bit to kind of recoup
Yeah.
that. And so then
Oh,
under that circumstance, I could use, I could do Joey at, you know, Joey at some other thingy and use it for free. But if I wanted the prestigious Bitcoin.com one, I might have to pay, not just to register, but also to use every transaction, just because it's a higher value
yeah.
on that.
Well, it's a totally legit thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted to steer away from all speculation possible. We want to focus on usage and
Hmm.
usability and all these things that we stand for. So if we actually were in the business of trading handles, that's not the kind of incentive we want to create, and it's not the kind of signal we want to send to the market of who we are.
Hmm.
So although I think it's totally legit for companies to actually do this, it's something that it goes against our values, and we are not going to do it. And we never did. We could
Hmm.
have made a lot of money, but we
Of
never did.
course. Yeah. So all this is to try to get people to use cryptocurrencies more. Now,
Yeah.
Um, how do you think it's been going so far? As far as first off, how easy is it to, in most cases, to set up like a wallet with a PayMail? It must be just as easy as setting up any other wallet, except you just enter your desired username and see if it's available, right?
Yeah, basically it depends on services. There are
Mm-hmm.
services that still don't have any email or phone registration, and
Mm-hmm.
that will be an issue in a few months when there are some laws that are going to be enforced on this. But even for non-custodial wallets, so laws are
Mm-hmm.
coming.
Yeah.
We are already asking for an email address and a phone number because we are not custodial, but we have implemented something that we call threshold signatures,
Mm-hmm.
which basically makes the wallet keyless while still
Mm-hmm.
making it non-custodial.
Mm-hmm.
And but yes, it's basically like setting up any other wallet, and you just decide your paymail name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to set up, and as mentioned before, it's on the protocol level at least feeless, so someone doesn't have to have some money to to sign up for an
No,
account. So it
no, no,
just
no. It's different from, I don't know if it was called Cash IT or something in Bitcoin Cash. That's something that they tried out like
mm,
2 years ago, and you had to actually pay for getting a name, and you actually had the block height number or something like that to avoid collision or something else.
something
I
more
didn't like
complicated.
that. They tried to convince us in using that thing, and no, no way.
Yeah, and of course part of the reason I'm exploring this sort of thing is, uh, for example, I know that some services like FIO, Foundation for Interoperability, which I don't know enough about, so I'm not going to talk too much about yet. I'm going to talk to them later at some point. I believe that you have to pay like a yearly registration fee for the username, and then there might be a fee associated with every time you transact to another user that's like on the username level. And then of course the cryptocurrency network is a separate thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's important when we're comparing these things to kind of see how that works. And of course, I'm also looking into the Lightning Network a little bit more. Not and it's interesting because you have to sort of, in a way, start an account, which it's not really an account, but you have to move something into a payment channel, which takes an on-chain transaction and a certain on-chain transaction fee and all that kind of stuff. And so when we're talking about the frictionless onboarding of users, these are important things to think about. So have you kept up with any sort of usage statistics as far as, well, obviously you must have them for HandCash, but have you basically, how much is the username, the easy to use aspect of the Bitcoin ecosystem growing? Have you paid much attention to that?
Yeah, what I can tell you is that we have like, I don't know if it was between 92 and 95% of transactions are through PayMail or handles
Hmm.
in HandCash at least.
Yeah.
And I guess most other transactions that are not exchange related are already that way.
Mm-hmm.
I would say also 95% or even 99%.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah, it's very rare in Bitcoin SV right now to use legacy addresses. People only use it for, yeah, sending money to their exchange, but it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you don't do. At least I don't know anybody that does it every day, multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
But for regular transactions between wallets and paying for stuff, etc., it's PayMail.
Yeah. Uh, Now, as far as exchanges are concerned, and uh, has there been any success that you can know of in getting exchanges, especially, but also other services like that, to start implementing PayMail? So,
No,
no,
no, and they won't.
no.
No,
Do you?
it
Do you
requires extra work. It already works,
yeah.
and they don't trust it because I need confirmations. I need all this crap, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
exchanges are over. I mean, they had their run,
Yeah.
and there's no reason for having exchanges any longer, for at least not in the coming years.
Yeah. And is that because more people will be receiving cryptocurrency for the first time from not buying it, that like someone will pay them
No,
in
they
it?
can buy it. They can buy it, but I think, for example, ourselves are going
Mm-hmm.
to implement it in a very nice way. And if you are worried about UX, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want people going to exchanges.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Well, it's just
Full
that
stop.
that reminds,
Full stop.
yes,
The
that
the problem is that, yeah, you can have. It's like when we launched HandCash. It was
mm-hmm.
like, yeah, this is great, but the rest of the ecosystem is so awful that, just for topping up this simple wallet, you have to actually go to Poloniex or any of
Mm-hmm.
these things and just register, and was very difficult. And then it's very expensive, and then you have the withdrawal fees, the credit card fees. If you pay with credit card, it's too expensive. We are going to do an in-app experience, and I guess it's going to be the trend.
Yeah.
And you're going to have um, less and less wallets out
Mm-hmm.
there, and they are going to be much more sophisticated in a way that they provide the services for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think most people will use. I don't think we have a future with Bitcoin where you have to go outside of your app for topping up or withdrawing money to a bank.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I like, for example, I believe the official Dash wallet has a Uphold integration right in there, so you can just
Mm.
do like a one, and it's a little bit of a special experience to move there.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the Bitcoin.com, all the other places like that have integrated things, and that does remind me of. So, like, I don't think I've ever bought cryptocurrency. I've only ever been paid with it over the years, and so it's
Interesting.
been since 2013, and I remember a couple times like oh, use this coin or this other thing, and then I would use like the in-app shapeshift thing back
Yeah.
before shapeshift did KYC and all that, and that was like my one exchange experience. And then at some point, someone gave me a whole bunch of some weird, no offense, but some weird shit coin that doesn't really exist anymore, and I was like, oh, this is
Coin
cool.
or something
I
like
think
that.
it might have been Scott coin, which is
Oh
that
shit.
the Scotland based thingy, which apparently it's still, people are still doing stuff with it, but whatever. I was trying to get rid of it or just trade some of it, and it was too small to be in shapeshift. And so I was like, well, what do I do? And I looked and they say, oh, do it on Bittrex. And so I got a Bittrex account, and I never used it because I went and I'm like, all right, now what I do? And I'm just looking at the screen. I'm like, buy, sell, order, all these candles everywhere. I'm like, what is this? I don't understand. And then I just never did anything with it.
Yeah.
So that was my personal experience. And as someone who had been using cryptocurrency in almost a daily life for about a year at that point, and I just could not figure this screen out. It's like, just can I hit buy?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
price?
Most people are not traders. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the exchange experience might be like a back end experience eventually.
sure, it should. I mean, it must. If we have to, if this technology goes somewhere, it has to be fully, non-existent.
Yeah,
Some people will still want to gamble and stuff, but
yeah. That is kind of a funny thing. Whenever the more I learn about these kinds of things, the more I realize that the cryptocurrency exchange has a weird position where in the legacy financial system, exchanges and markets like that aren't nearly as prominent. Where now they're like the liquidity provider, they're like the broker, they're every single step of
yeah,
the experience, and then they're like the custodial solution. They're like the bank too at the same time. They're
yeah,
like everything
yeah.
in this one weird system, and so we're
Hmm.
starting to see.
Well,
Yeah, go
I'm,
ahead.
I'm, I'm going to. I'm not saying that they are going to disappear or something.
Hmm.
What I mean is that they are not going to be a main part of cryptocurrency users in the coming future for
Yeah,
users.
yeah, that's for sure. In the past, it's just been get an exchange account, and now I think there's probably going to be a lot more brokers. And so, as far as the experience of legacy addresses, as you were saying, where it's like a small minority, which is mostly exchanges and stuff, probably in the future it'll be close to zero, and the only people that would use the legacy addresses might be the exchanges to like the wallet partner, but
If
then
they do still, well, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, legacy addresses. I mean, we are not getting rid of legacy addresses for use.
Hmm.
We are getting rid of legacy addresses for users, but not in our backend. I
Of
mean,
course.
PayMail still uses it's part of Bitcoin, the legacy addresses. And the thing is, we just make it more convenient for the user, so the user doesn't even have to notice that those addresses are being used.
Yeah. Now, do you think having an email format has made it a lot easier for new users because they're already familiar with that?
Yeah, I think, well, it makes it easier once they understand it. The problem is that um, it's not a huge problem, okay, but some people get confused because an email address looks like an email address, and it's sometimes we received some emails of people that were a bit confused. They were expecting the payment to go through that they would receive an email on their email provider or something like that, or that they could receive emails using their handle or something. So I voted for using the $sign instead of the @
Mm-hmm.
the ad symbol. But that's something that's a battle that I lost. At least I could call it PayMail instead of the BSV crypto alias, whatever bullshit they wanted to call it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so I won that war.
Do you think there would ever be a world where PayMail and email are kind of in the same thing, to where use the same, your email address and your PayMail address are the same, and when
It already happens in Bitcoin SV. We have
mm-hmm,
something called Bmail,
mm-hmm,
and it's pretty cool because you are using your own PayMail from Money Button or Relay or HandCash or whatever. Well, not HandCash yet
mm-hmm,
publicly, and it's pretty cool because you can actually receive emails there, and
mm-hmm,
you can even put a price to, if you want to email me, you have to pay like 5 cents or 2 cents or 1 cent or maybe
mm-hmm.
much less than that, because you just want to get rid of spam and in your inbox. And I think it's a very cool concept, and I think the developer behind it, Degan, he's a very smart guy, and I really like it. I think it like everything, we are in the early stages on all of
Mm-hmm.
these, but we have to run experiments and see if it works or if it doesn't. And so far, I really like it. This Bmail thing, I think you should try it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds very interesting, especially because I
Also, but by the
yes.
way, it uses Paymail as it's a protocol that communicates wallets, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be used for making end-to-end encryption
Mm-hmm.
for messages. Then so you can use this protocol for chats or emails or whatever, and it's pretty cool because Bmail is not only tied to your wallet, but it is also in a way uses your credentials, your keys or whatever um, for encrypting and decrypting information, so it's very secure too, and everything is stored on chain. So that's something that you can always recover those emails in the future, and it's very interesting. It's a very cool. It's one of the most cool, the coolest projects that are in the existing BSV right now.
Yeah, I might have to chat to the guy. So, do you have? Is there anything else cool on the horizon as far as PayMail and HandCash are concerned that you can think of?
Well, a few weeks ago, the Bitcoin node development team they implemented one thing that's called SPV channels,
Mm-hmm.
which is supposedly it creates SPV channel communication between services for exchanging information for payments in a much secure way by
Mm-hmm.
using some of the Bitcoin's innate technologies. But I'm not very technically versed on it, so I'm not going to discuss the details on it. But I think it's something that's pretty cool, that's in the horizon, and might be something very interesting.
Well, great. Where can people find out more about what you do and where to find you online?
Yeah, you can enter handcash.io,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, we just uploaded our new website with the new app and all the stuff that we are going to launch the new 2.5 version in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And just find me at APAGUT on Twitter, Apagut,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And yeah, you can find me there. Please follow me and HandCash. On Twitter, HandCash is at HandCash app.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a developer and want to know how to integrate HandCash into your apps or games or whatever, you can enter handcash.dev.
Nice. Are you on Twitch as well?
Yeah, I'm on Twitch. I'm the user. I think it's the 102.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's a
think it's the
good.
102.
That's a good. That's a good number. All right. Well,
Yeah, it's
thanks
easy
for.
to remember.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for sharing your time, and hope you have a good one.
No, thanks for having me.